Hi everyone, welcome to our lecture video about section 3.1, section 1.3 material from your textbook. So we're talking about simple random sampling, and it kind of is what it sounds like. But the big concept here that you should get, from the get-go is that if you're conducting some kind of experiment or study, you need to select a sample of individuals from the population on whom you're going to take measurements. And when it comes to selecting that sample, convenience is almost always a bad way to go. And true randomness is really what we want to have happen. And so as an example, let's say that Midland College wants to get student feedback about campus priorities. So they want to ask students, should we spend more money on classrooms, improving our classroom technology and classroom furniture and that sort of thing? Or should we spend more money on student activities? Or should we spend more money on, let's say, athletics? And you can imagine, there's some classroom full of students. Let's say the students are sitting in like a grid. And if Midland College doesn't need to give a survey to every single student, maybe what they do is they give the instructor a stack of surveys, maybe like 3 surveys, and out of convenience, let's say the instructor just hands them to the first 3 students sitting in the front row of the classroom. You could imagine that maybe, just maybe, that the students sitting in the front of the classroom, the generalization is that the students who sit in the front really care about their schoolwork, and they're there to learn, and they place the highest priority on this. Whereas maybe the students in the back of the classroom are those students that are interested in socializing and really living up the social aspect of college, right? And being able to sit in the back and talk to their friends and avoid the, attention of the instructor. So maybe if you passed out the surveys this way and you chose your sample of students based on who is sitting closest to you whenever you, remembered that you held a stack of the student surveys, maybe that might skew the responses of the students in favor of maybe spending more money on classrooms, if that's where the student's priority lies. Likewise, if you said, well, I need to get responses from 100 students on this particular question, and there just so happens to be 100 students on the football team, let's just, take these surveys to the football team. That way I don't actually have to track down all of the instructors to distribute the surveys throughout the college. If you ask this question to 100 football players, I think there's a good chance that they would say, well, the football team needs more money, right? And so if you choose some kind of convenient way to pass out a survey, or to choose individuals to belong part of your sample, that can lead to having skewed results at the end of your survey. And just as another example really quickly, suppose that a student wants to determine what percentage of Midland College students like the food at the cafeteria. So we have places where we serve food on the college campus, and I'm sure some students like it, some students don't. I personally don't eat there very often. But let's say that they want to perform a survey and they want to show administration, look, 70% of students like the food, or 50% of students, or whatever it is, like the food at the cafeteria. Convenience would say, let me just pass out these surveys to my friends and have my friends answer the survey. But depending on your friend group, that could really influence it, right? I mean, different groups of friends might love the cafeteria because maybe that group of friends, they live on campus and they find it really convenient to eat at the cafeteria. Maybe they even met each other while eating at the cafeteria because they all happen to like the food, right? And so you can definitely run into the ditch here, and as far as convenience goes, and mess up your survey results. Obviously, the much better way to perform either of these surveys in these 2 examples would be to say, well, I'm going to make a list of all Midland College students, all 5,000 or so, And I'm going to use a random number generator to select however many hundred of students I want to be part of my sample, and then actually find a way to track down those students and get those students to respond to the survey. But notice what I just described is actually a random sample. You actually use a random number generator to select students and make sure that they respond. And that's a lot more difficult. It's definitely not as convenient, but it will create a more fair and balanced survey result. So again, this is how to do a simple random sample. Number one, we want to create a frame of the population we're studying. And this is just a definition here, but a frame is just a list that identifies each individual in the population. So whenever we talk about a frame of Midland College students, it would be a list of 1 to 5,000 with all of the names of the Midland College students. So, you just make a list of all of the students that you have at Midland College, and whenever we do a random number generator to generate random numbers, maybe you generate 100 random numbers, you associate those numbers that we produce with letters, a human's name, a student's name from the list, and you say, well, my random number generator selected 2, so that means Bob is selected, and I'm going to make sure that I get a response from Bob. That's how to do a simple random sample. Just to show you what a random number generator looks like, we're going to open up Microsoft Excel. And to create a random number in Excel, just click any cell and click enter, equals, rand between, so R-A-N-D between, open parentheses, and what number you want to start on, probably 1 if you're making a list, and then if you're making a list of 5,000 students, you type in 5,000. If you're making a list of just 6 students, then you put 6, right? And so each time I press F9, it's going to generate a new random number between 1 and 6, right? So this is what I mean by random number generator. It's just something on a computer somewhere that generates a number that you can't really predict, right? If you, the researcher, can predict what number it's going to generate, then it's no good. Well, let's say I have 60 students in my population, and I want to make a sample of 10 of them. Well, these 10 random numbers will tell me which 10 students I should pick out of my list, as long as my list is indexed. So each student is already assigned a number. And if you have duplicates like this, like there's 2 17s in here, I don't know, just generate new numbers, I guess. But this is the idea. It's inconvenient, but that inconvenience is good.